Hey everybody, Edo here, and I have another one of these impromptu videos. I don't know how I like the format, but it is interesting for the shorter form reactions or thoughts, so I'm giving it a shot. So, more and more people who are going up on Kickstarter are being unsuccessful for one reason or another, lots of different reasons. But one of the things that is growing very frustrating to me is seeing people who are spending a lot of money on reviews or paid previews, whatever you want to call it, and it appears to be relying on that as a source of an audience for your game. And that's just terrible. Now, I have a long video thinking about and talking through paid content and content marketing and my thoughts there, and I'll link it below. And if you want to sit down and get like a full-throated opinion on it, you can. Too long didn't read or listen, I guess. If it's listed by the Kickstarter page as being paid content and the content creators listing as paid content, it's content marketing and it happens all over the place. It becomes a different situation when it sort of happens and people don't know about it. But let's just set that aside for a second and understand it exists. But so if you are, what you need to do as a creator is think about what it is, what you're selling, right? If your game is just a brick and you're selling the brick, if it's not enticing, interesting, or engaging, it doesn't matter what kind of marketing, ads, or reviews there are, it's not going to drive interest and engagement, right? So, if you don't have a clear elevator pitch and hook for your game, if the graphics don't look good, if the instructions aren't clear, if all of those things, if you don't have a good splash page, if you don't have a good intro video, if you don't have a good layout on your page, if you don't have a good existing audience, all of those things are going to diminish or reduce the impact of any sort of marketing, ads, or review content, again, paid or not, whatever. But if somebody's talking about your game and it doesn't have a hook, it's not easy to explain, it's not enticing, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you've got 40 reviews. It just doesn't have an impact. And the thing that amps me is when you start adding up, I see people who have all of the different paid content lined up, and when you start adding up that money, it's like you just spent $1,000 on that stuff, or $1,500. For that amount of money, you could have had an awesome thumbnail image and page. You could have gotten a graphic designer. You could have paid the rules girl, or whatever her name is, to do an awesome animated video that's lively and informative, right? There are all these other different things you could be doing with that money, and that money needs to go a long way. If you're going to spend $400, $500, $600 on video content, it's not like you just want 10 backers, you want 30, 40, 50 backers. And are you going to get that? That's a large amount of backers. Another thing you really need to be thinking about is like, who is the audience of these reviewers, right? Like, you see numbers of views. What does that mean? What kind of gamer watches those videos? And let's just be clear, they're gamers, right? How many people are watching Kickstarter preview videos if they're not like into watching Kickstarter preview videos? Like, it's a big audience, and it's an important audience, and an audience that is self-identifying as people who want to back Kickstarters, but it's a pretty specific group, and you got to ask yourself, is that group different with reviewer X than reviewer Y? Why? And do they need to see your video 3 times? Like, how are you proceeding? And if you're picking reviewers and going for it, think about what their appeal is. The Dice Tower has very different appeal than Man vs. Meeple, and they have very different appeal from Undead Viking, and very different appeal from other groups, right? So it kills me to see blanket reviewers. Sometimes I'm in the reviewers too, right? I mean, I'm not paid, but I'm certainly somebody people see as reviewers. But blanket reviewers, and what seems to be this idea that by having reviewers, you are going to inherently have a successful campaign. Because people see successful campaigns and they see that, right? I suspect. Now, admittedly, I have not had any, runaway campaigns. I've had a number, 8 successful campaigns, all to different scales, but all humble, right? All like 14,000 to 60, like, and everywhere in between. So not, and those are good numbers, and it's a joy that I've been successful. But I haven't had some $100,000, $200,000, $1 million campaign. And perhaps for those campaigns, you just need to spend. I don't know, perhaps. But just as a creator, really think hard of what your dollar's getting you, who's listening, and if you're gonna do these things that are amplifying reach, that there's something interesting that they're looking at, that they're coming to, that they're engaging. Because if there isn't, in effect, you're throwing away money. So, just to close, I'm actually not really trying to criticize anyone. Reviewers, they have work to do, and whether they do free content or paid content, again, if it's displayed correctly, that's their prerogative, and creators, how they feel about it. I've done a number of videos on the topic. And I'm not criticizing a creator that thinks, well, I don't have an audience, I don't have this, I don't have that. I could get an audience by paying for these reviews, or just having a ton of reviews. And the reality is that isn't necessarily a prime audience for you. Especially if you're a new creator, especially like if you have a sequel or something with a brand, that's like a different status. But if you're just John Doe, it isn't necessarily going to work for you. And it would be better for you to think about the spectrum of things you need to do on a campaign. Title image, video, page layout, content, rule book, outreach. What are you doing on social media? What are you doing on Facebook? What are you doing on Twitter? What are you doing on Instagram? Are you going to your local game store? Are you going to conventions? Are you playing with people? Has anyone ever tried your game before? Are you doing some cool viral marketing thing? Like, what are all the different things as a set you're doing? But the last thing I'm going to say on this topic, the last thing is, if you have a dull point to your arrow, it's not going to go through the target. The hook, the pitch, that is what grabs, dives, breaks through. And so you can put all this horsepower, but if it's just hitting a wall because it's not compelling, it's not exciting, it doesn't have a hook, it's not imaginative, it's going to be a rough road. So think about the point, the head. What am I talking about? Just think about your entire arsenal. And I feel for you. I feel so bad for a Kickstarter creator who's doesn't look like they're going to fund, and it looks like they spent a lot of dollars on marketing, which ultimately is low efficiency. If you play a lot of League of Legends, efficiency is important, right? Efficiency of spend. So anyway, I don't know. Just be careful with your money. Hey everybody, Edo here, and thanks for watching Gaming with Edo. Reviews over here on this playlist, League and Insider videos over here on this one. Subscribe, share, all that good stuff. But most importantly, play some great games. Thanks. Bye.